Hear me? At the back? Okay. So if you don't mind, if you can come in front, some of the fonts are very small. There's some content. If you're comfortable, be where you are. But if you want, you're welcome. First of all, thanks to Ashish and the IIBA team for this warm welcome. Thanks for the opportunity. I also want to thank Accenture for giving me this opportunity to be able to share some of my thoughts. Originally, Joydeep Mukherjee, the head of our industry, was to handle this, but due to his other pressing assignments, he requested that I step into his role. So I'll try to do my best here. In pulling this stuff together, I've got, and it's not just my thought process, it is the thought process of an entire team behind Accenture. And I want to mention this. Seated here are Ajay Bora, who is our financial services industry lead. I have Subbu Subramaniam from our products and automotive industry. You possibly met Rajiv Nair. We have Murli, who was a speaker. We have Maharshi from the strategy team, and so I've collected a whole lot of thought process from across different industries because that's what the world is changing, and try to present what it means to business analysis. Okay, so hang on for some good stuff. So we start with what is happening here. So these disruptive forces, I think you hear this more often from different sources that every industry, and I'm talking of every industry, in Accenture we look at more than 30 industries, 19 of them we look very, very closely and report even our financials around those lines. Our go-to-market is around those industries, which means we try to become masters of that particular industry and power technology solutions, consulting solutions, and business process solutions around those industries. So it takes quite a bit to know and be on top of your industry. And a substantial amount of investments goes into understanding the industry, and also not only understanding, but also thinking what's coming up next, and to work with industry leaders to set the agenda for their future. So when you distill all of that and look at cross-industry, you see changes that are happening and forces impacting from both inside as well as outside the industry. And this is true of, you pick any insurance, health, banking, automotive, life sciences, energy. You pick any industry, you tend to see that. I want to give you all a snapshot of what is changing from a consumer standpoint. For the first time, possibly ever, in an unprecedented basis, the customers are beginning to call the shots a lot more than they've ever before. So customer behavior is being scrutinized, and customers are beginning to dictate what products and what services and what channels and with what level and what price point they would want to buy. And this means that for industries which has been predominantly a producer-led industry, it's moving to a consumer-led industry, which means a dramatic tectonic shift in the way industries operate. And you will see that this is happening across banks. And many of you are quite familiar with banks, right? If you look at, omni-channel, branch experience, how many of them want to be managing finances? How many want to embrace new entrants that are coming into the market? How do their customers, what exactly do their customers want to be, what do they want to buy and sell? What sort of advice do they need from banks? Look at insurance, very similar. 48% of them want to sort of work through social media, right? 64% are price sensitive. I want all the best in the world. However, I want it at a price point that I need. Now, we always thought for long that this is an emerging market scenario. But no, this is a global scenario. This is what customers around the globe want, not necessarily from the emerging markets. 78% are willing to share in exchange for something in return. I'm willing to share personal data, but what is in it for me? Similarly, 72% are always connected in some way or the other. Now you will see certain terms coming on and off. social, connected, at price sensitive, of course. Look at what is happening in the media industry. Hyper-connected customers, right? You have 87% of TV viewership. I think most of us watch Arnab Goswami's sessions these days, right? He says 97% TRP for the last 1 month. But there is a sense of, being connected to multiple, and there's another survey which says that, you watch a TV and you use a laptop and you use your mobile phone all at the same time. That's the level of connectivity that is there. Look at this term, screenagers are disenchanted with their aspects of digital life. Despite all this, screenagers are disappointed that they are not getting what they want. Loyalty is uncertain. We hear this again and again. Every industry, customers are willing to switch at a bat of an eyelid. And then companies, manufacturer-oriented industries which used to dish out what they want and then expect customers to pick and run and be there for life, right, with them and their next generation. And their next generation used to be loyal customers, are all beginning to worry about, they are not able to retain customers even within their lifetime. Forget about that, even within a few years. So loyalty is a big uncertainty. You see that happening in auto. This is a survey of the Chinese market, which is the largest auto market today. It has overtaken the US market. And I hear from my auto expert that there are surveys which now demonstrate what the Chinese aspirational customers are. And we'll see that happening even in India, right? 49% look at recommendations from friends. 64% seek advice from family members, right? 53% look at manufacturer websites. Now look at how customers are beginning to change and form opinions about it. And I see that happening even here. That you're willing to ask questions. The decision, the key buyer gets influenced by a set of people, family, friends, social circle, his social network. Why is this important? Why is this important? So very important as the power balance begins to shift to customers. Same thing happening in retail. So I just picked 5 industries. You go across any industry, you will find pretty much similar things happening. And as business analysts, we need to realize these things are unnerving for business managers. The CXO suite gets unnerved when such tectonic shifts happen. Consumer behavior is one tectonic shift. Look at another one, when new entrants are happening. I've heard CXOs from very, very big, large banks and large industries, they confer in private that this new entrance into the market, nimble, agile, and willing to do things that are very different. In a sector like banking, which is supposed to be trust-based, heavily, will not allow change to happen so easily, it's going to happen there with new entrants. So this is very unnerving for decision makers. Again, why is that important? Extremely important for business analysts to realize the mindset of what's happening in the boardroom. Look at this is an extended ecosystem of a bank as a service provider, and look at all the other industries that are happening: textiles, footwear, electrical appliances, food, electronics, fuel. Can you imagine these industries and banking? And these are connected services that are going to come to play. So look at insurance, right? So look at the new players that are coming in. Google in insurance, ADT coming into insurance, Walmart already into insurance, Allstate dealers setting up full-fledged dealer services and insurance MGA agents. All this has a profound effect to establish large players in the respective industry. You'll see the same thing happening in media. You'll see a whole lot of new players. Just imagine, media was one of the earliest to get digitized, like telecom or communications. And that lent itself to a very disruptive force. And you'll see media. And you see, even if you look at around us, how many animation companies, how many new companies have come in, how some of the best and brightest minds are working for Bollywood films in India. Can you imagine the amount of animation and the amount of technology advancement that happens? Auto. Auto is another sector. Car is a software platform now. And imagine, just look at the number of new players. There's so many new players looking at engine efficiency. New players coming in and connect. The car has been unbundled. It's no longer one piece of car and you don't have an automaker. You have new players in every aspect of a car, and they are making inroads. Same with retail. Imagine Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google becoming big players in retail, something that didn't exist 5 years ago. And just imagine what more is going to happen as we go forward. So, with new entrants, the second big tectonic shift is happening. Now, what does this result into? This results into a disruption of the value chain, which means if an insurance company used to do a particular set of things in a particular way, is to issue quotations, they will do underwriting, they will issue a policy, they will they will service a claim, they will do subrogation, they will do billing, settlements, finance, and other things. That's an established value chain. When you're now being pushed to sell new products, when you're pushed to sell, get more other entrants in the ecosystem, your entire value chain is going to be dramatically altered, because you will not, in addition to what you do, you'll have to do so many other things. The value chain will shift, which means you take large companies and you try to do a servicing in large companies. If it is not something according to standard ways of doing it, it's a horror for customers. Imagine how many horrors customers have to go through when value chain changes, when the backbone changes of a company. So, banks getting unbundled. Look at a lot of new things that banks are going to offer services in. Look at insurance companies. Look at plans for non-insurance products they want to sell. Loyalty rewards, home services, lifestyle-based services, motoring services, usage of drones for inspection. There's a whole lot of services that are going to come into the insurance industry, things that they never even imagined they could be doing. Media. You'll see all these companies, can you ever think of new companies that are making big entrants into the market, and they are challenging established players, which gives the creeps. Same with health and life sciences. Explosion in the life sciences market. So just imagine when these three things are happening, what will be the discussions that should be happening in the boardroom? What are the decisions that are made? How do you set strategy? How do you set, whom do you attack? Who's your customer? Who's your key competitor? When do you service? What products do you launch? What time? What IT systems do you need? What level of agility is needed? Now, these are questions that are being discussed in the boardroom. Are there answers? I'm not sure. So, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. This is Alan Key. How many of you know Alan Key? Alan Kay, how many of you? Okay. So Alan Kay was one of the greatest innovators. He started his career and in Xerox PARC. He was part of a lot of startups. He's a big entrepreneur, and he was a lead scientist. And after he said, and like him, there are many other people who said, but when we are in that stage where it's very hard to define the future and say, this is the way it will go. And so, here's an opportunity for us to invent the future. And what I'm going to share with you is what Accenture has done to create a technology vision. And today, what I'm going to talk about is, in the world of application services, how is it relevant for us? Okay, in the world of applications and application services. So I want to share with you the technology vision, which reflects some of the trends that we talked about. So the Internet of Me, right? So what is the Internet of Me? So a lot of things that we did in the past was related to what I could do within my firm and my company. How can I influence my company? The greatest amount of influence would be that as long as I influence my other departments in the firm, as an IT, I'm able to manage and get some things going, I can run initiatives. But it's no longer the case. You see that what you do within your firm is not good enough. You have to go outside your industry to other partners and ecosystem partners. And you see how the car is getting completely, you see all the new entrants coming in. And so we are living in a connected world, and that leads to an ecosystem. So you are no longer competing between company A and company B. It is going to be an ecosystem of company A, an ecosystem of company B. And so we are reaching a we economy, which means, and you saw what customers' expectations are and what they want out of it, right? So we are hearing everything as a service. So they're no longer going to buy long licenses, correct? They're not going to make huge investments in hardware. They're not going to make huge investments in software. They're not going to be tied to long-term 10-year outsourcing deals. I don't know how many have been hearing of that of late. No, I want it at price. I want to buy it on price, pay by the drink, everything as a service. So when you get into everything as a service, finally, providers are beginning to think about the outcome economy. How can I sell business results to you? How can I sell business outcomes to you? And how can I partake in business outcomes as against buying goods from me? So this is a major shift for providers, and we see that happening. This is happening across all industries, across all goods and services. I heard about, from my auto friends, about tire as a service. Tire as a service. You don't have to own tires, car tires. You can buy and go. This is not possibly needed in Indian context, but possibly when you are in cold countries, you need some winter tires, you need something for the regular thing. Yesterday we heard somebody talked about, Armani suit. Why do you need to own an Armani suit? I mean, you can just, you use it 3 or 4 times a year, you just go and rent it or use it. You can still. These days we even hear about, made to order personalized clothing, where you get, you can actually get all your measurements and everything done on the web. I was actually talking to another entrepreneur who's come from Singapore in the retail space. He's got a mirror. It's a small company who got a mirror. So you stand in front of that mirror. It actually uses all sensor technology to take your body weight, your this, etc. And you can choose different clothing that are there, and you can choose and see how you feel. You can pick up bag, you can pick up suitcase, you can pick a tie, you can put on a tie, everything virtual. And then you choose, okay, I want this set and I'll try this on, in the trial room. So imagine large retail shops having hundreds of these ones, and you try anything you want. I mean, you don't have to, and it's actually to the fit. It even gives you suggestions on, given your body size and contours, this size with this thing, slim fit, whatever, all those different varieties, and it gives you suggestions for this. So this is revolutionary, changes things. So there's a lot of these new technology happen, and that's, again, part of the outcome economy. Platform revolution, so what's happening? So when you start doing things in a connected world, you cannot have one application that sits. You need a platform that will interconnect with your other ecosystem providers. And that's where we get into a platform revolution. And so applications of the future will have to be on a platform basis that can sustain and coexist with the rest of your partner ecosystem. Again, start thinking about why is this important for BAs. Intelligent enterprise. It's no longer, I gave you the example of this virtual mirror. It not only tells you, based on your body, your body contours, your height, weight, so it tells you, what color will suit you best, what, size and what type of a fit and what will go with it, what are other things in stock that you should try, what are the other latest trends that are coming up. I don't know, when I go to a shop, I rely on someone else to tell me. But imagine if those intelligence is built in and you really don't, you get the best of advice from any retailer. So embedding intelligence into everything that we do, be it software development, every aspect of software development, every aspect of point of sale, every aspect of service, you can build this you can build this intelligence. And you'll see this intelligence coming in. And you will see this getting exacerbated because of the IoT. where you can start sensing and you can connect applications and you can start building intelligence that never existed. Let me give you a simple example. If you are buying an insurance policy, you get an agent who come and talks to you, and many a times, they take down details, they ask you 100 different things, then they take it back to their client, give you a quotation, medical underwriting happens after 30 days or so, you get a policy, then you can choose, you have a free look-in period, whether you want to do this or that. You ask 2-3 questions to the agent, and then, he can't explain. So he has to say, let me call my expert, let me call my underwriter. He'll give you some gyan, some expert. He'll give you wrong advice. Imagine if all those good things are available at the time the agent talks for the first time with you, or it's available on a self-service mode, on an informed way. Given your profile, given your this thing, given your current investments, given your current state, your age, your family history, your earning capacity, your current level of risk exposure, what is the insurance you need? What do you want to buy? What is the best of covers you need? Go and pick from these people. When I look at claims history of different, and then you do comparison between insurers and say, given these sort of guys, these guys promise a lot during sales, but they don't really settle claims. So give you all those intelligence at the point when you need. Give you history of funds, what they're making. So when you build those intelligence at the point of sale, it will be extremely powerful. So you will see, as a customer, as a consumer, when you buy anything, you have to rely on advice from somewhere. The degree of advice is dependent on the person who's standing there and his motivation to sell. If that advice can be from an expert, from experts from around, can be brought to bear to the customer when he's buying at the place where he needs, that will be extraordinary. That will be extraordinary. So that's the power of intelligence that can be brought in. And finally, workforce reimagined, right? We are seeing cognitive tools. We are seeing cognitive agents. We are all in the IT industry doing work, right? So if the tickets that comes in gets, the tickets are automatically analyzed, verified, and then you get solutions to it on a self-governing mode. If applications can be on a self-governing mode and can fix applications and can fix problems, and only those which are not able to fix are passed on to someone, an expert, look how it would be, right? How you can dramatically cut down the amount of manpower that is needed to support applications. Just imagine that you have a number of virtual cognitive agents working like, what do we call in our terms, FTEs, the team on these resources. Applications. Workforce reimagined, right? Imagine usage of drones for, and this almost reality, right? Amazon is already trying this. An industry like insurance, which is one of the slowest to take care, is already begun applied to the federal agency for license to use drones for inspections, for relief, for calamities, for forewarning residents about what is happening. We see wearables. So there's a whole lot of new things that are coming in, and the workforce that is typically used to bring the workforce of how you will use to solve and do work itself is getting reimagined. So these are 5 meta trends for the technology vision of the future, and that gives us ideas on how to manage our applications. So now I'll switch to, so as applications, as we all as business analysts work on business applications, what will the applications look like when the industry is changing, customer is changing, value chain is changing, new entrants coming in, and somebody says invent the future, and we have technology trends that are sort of beyond the realm. So how will the applications look like? So this is Accenture's point of view, and you can actually look at details in accenture.com, that the future of applications, 3 important strategies would be needed, right? As long as you can have liquid applications and liquid architecture. Number 2, if you have intelligent applications, applications that will have intelligence embedded all over, right through your business cycles. So you can use intelligence for requirement gathering, intelligence for design, intelligence for coding, intelligence for testing, intelligence for rollouts, intelligence for deploying, intelligence for customer satisfaction, intelligence for feedback loop, intelligence for next planning and and harnessing the next set of requirements. Imagine that cycle full of intelligence being done, where currently we have to apply manual techniques and manual people. So, what are liquid applications? Far from ground up developing applications and coding for it and architecting for it, because we live in a connected world, if your architectures and applications if your architecture is such that it can coexist and live in an ecosystem and freely interact with your ecosystem, so you can compete ecosystem to ecosystem. You need an architecture that will allow you, so that's called liquid architecture. And at the speed at which we want. How many of you have been involved in digital projects? No longer are these 18 months, 24 months SRP, ERP long projects that we used to think of, right? Those early days. No longer. I mean, it's all 4 months, 6 months, 18 weeks, 12 weeks discussions in all the digital projects that are being done. Speed, absolutely. What can you build in 12 weeks? So you need pre-built technologies. You need pre-built solutions. You need things. So the liquid solutions applications are such that on a liquid architecture, you can bolt them on, assemble components, orchestrate, and deliver services. So imagine as a business analyst, what do you need to do when you have liquid applications? We talked eloquently about intelligent applications. Now comes connected. So connected applications is again the concept of you are no longer having applications which has, say, 100 integration points into different things, right? As long as I take care of pushing some data or pulling some data, I'm good, my current applications. But no longer. In a connected world, you don't know from where. You need to have a system where you are connected into every core system of each one of your ecosystem partner. Unless you have that platform, unless you have that, it's impossible to compete. So you don't know. So you need to have ability to take service requests coming from different channels. So you cannot say I have these 4 channels from where I'm going to distribute. No, it could be hundreds. Service requests could come from hundreds of places, hundreds of channels. So an ability to have connected applications and extending beyond your boundaries and software that will help you reach there, or if you have strategies and your applications can do that, then you're setting yourself up for success. And so so the operating model, that leads us to our operating model. The operating model must be, it's no longer business tells you at the beginning of the year, I want to do these 15 priorities. IT goes and starts doing that, where the vendor management, procurement management goes and starts beating down the vendors and gets some things done and then delivers, right? That's no longer going to be. It's going to be a business plus IT play. In fact, if you see Accenture's experience of doing a lot of digital projects, there's more business than IT involved, and IT is beginning to catch up. There's a whole lot of new dynamics that is happening. And so even when organizations need to start managing this, IT alone cannot do this. IT and business needs to be in tandem. It'll take a few rounds before they will start marching along the same beat. And then this will be the new operating model for applications. So that's context setting. So I want to move a little faster from here into, so what does it mean to BAs, right? What are the implications for BAs? So I'm going to ask questions just to provoke thoughts, okay? Some of it you may have answers, some of it may not, but that's enough. The main objective for me is to get BAs to think about what it means to them in this new world. So who's your customer? So when we write requirements, we write use cases. Or the customer will log in here, he would want this, he will do this, he will need self-service, he will need these products, he will ask this question, we need to give an answer to this question, he will buy at this price. But in a connected world, who is your customer? Is the guy who interacts with you? Imagine the consumer behavior of how they get influenced with social networks and how their buying behavior changes. So who's your customer? Is it social network? Is it the ultimate buyer's social network or his family? Or is it his connected world, entire suppliers, etc. Because you can get requests for products and services from any of the supplier network, from any of your ecosystem. So who's your customer? So start thinking. So when you generate requirements, when you start asking this question, who is your customer? And look at beyond the obvious to 2 or 3 layers below, beyond to who could be an organization's customer for the application requirement that you're writing. So we make assumptions about what an industry is. So I've worked in an insurance industry for 15 years, 20 years. So I know who the insurer is, who is the customer, who is the agent, who is the seller. But when the ecosystem changes at this level, you have to take guard again. Who is part of your ecosystem and who is not? And when we are shaping requirements as business analysts, those are good questions to ask with the business. These are good questions to contribute to the strategy. Good question to ask who are all there, who else could be there, who else could be co-opted. Why not this? Why not that? Let me give you an example. Many of you know that there are inboard dashboards for telematics. So driving behavior, how fast you drive, where do you drive, how many kilometers, how many times you brake. We all know that, right? So in the US, there's a lot of this onboard telematics that was used. That who would pay for all that services? You either get the manufacturer, auto manufacturer to pay because he provides those dashboards, or you push the customer to say, you want this onboard telematics dashboard, I could give you, but you have to pay $10 a month extra. Uptake has not been great. The customer said, why should I pay? It's none of my business. You want my data. I don't want to give you. The uptake has not been great. But without that data, automakers, they thought it's a great feature to have. They will love this, right? And insurers you will get insurance points discounts. But the true beneficiary in this game was actually the insurers. So the insurers knew which risk, and insurers selected because of a risk, right? So which customer to go after? If you go after Ramesh, who sort of is a married guy, stable guy, 2 kids, drives 4 kilometers from office to home, parks the car in his garage at home and in the office, once in 3 months he goes out of the city or something, he drives for another 500,000 kilometers. His total usage in the year is about 7,500 to 8,000 kilometers. Great risk to have, right? As against, So imagine these and his driving patterns. How much times, how many times will he brake? He's very sore. He's still not changed his car after 8 years. Man, his car is in great condition. So imagine how many of these things. So who's the real beneficiary? The insurer could be a real beneficiary, but the insurers have not come to the party to fund all these efforts and the intelligence that can be built into the part. So when you are able to bring insurers and auto manufacturers onto the same table and then help them drive new solutions to the market, now this is something new. Think that way. What is it that business analysts could do by bringing the best of auto, the best of insurers to industries at a different level? And as a software developer, you are able to broker some new solutions and new ways of doing things. Already these things are happening. So think of ecosystem. Don't think of just the company, but think of ecosystem. Think of all the providers. So when you need to do that, what does it mean? What is the breadth of knowledge you need to have? You need to know the macroeconomic situations. You need to understand what's happening in each industry. You need to understand why these industry dynamics are happening and able to pick and choose pieces of things that are good in an ecosystem in a different industry that can be very, very useful for you. And the great thing is there is an opportunity to create something new. So technology. So we all work in technology firms. Understanding the technology architecture. Certain industries have been heavily run by ERP. Certain have been heavily custom-built applications. Certain industries have run heavily on packaged, off-the-shelf applications, right? So as you understand your respective industry, think of the connected world. Think of the liquid applications. Think of what future applications will be, and so what architectures are needed. And just think of how if your industry has been heavily into the ERP-led, how is it going to change? In fact, ERPs are making a major change in the way they are operating, and our friend Subbu can talk about it if you guys are interested, about how ERPs are changing in a major way for this world. Finally, all of us have written requirements, all of us have done system analysis, all of us have thought about applications, and we are very familiar with the world front office, middle office, and back office. So when you start building intelligence, which used to be a middle office function, and that middle office function sent to an underwriting behind who will set, or he'll do all those calculations and come back to you. If that intelligence is brought at the point of sale or at the point of service, it becomes front office. Large risks are underwritten. Large risks are underwritten where there's a huge risk inspection and other things happen of multiple underwriting things are done. Then rates are given, and there's a lot of things that happen over periods of time. What if the service levels are defined and intelligence is brought in at different points? So what used to be back office can suddenly become front office. What used to be when banks underwrite or when they sort of give loan rates, instead of floating rates, it could be yield-based rates, depending on a customer, depending on his credit history, depending upon his earning capacity, depending on what sort of customer he is. You can start giving different rates for loans. So imagine if today you can't do that because you do it at a portfolio level. You don't have crunching capacity. So if that crunching capacity is brought in at front office at point of sale with in-memory analytics, or if some of the new technologies can bring that, just imagine what can be done. What's the power of changing what used to be in back office to middle office or middle office to front office, and vice versa. So, next question to business analysts. Do you understand that you need to now understand integration architecture? It's no longer for the technology architect to know that, but at least you need to appreciate what is the impact of integration architecture. So what can integration architecture do? Because when you think about your ecosystem and you think about your partners, you need to think about how you can interact with them on a live basis. You need to understand. Then you start asking questions on what sort of real-time integration I need versus batch. What do I need synchronous versus asynchronous? What can be put into the batch on a polling mode versus what do you need instant on the face? What can be pre-cached? What can be pre-underwritten? What can be pre-processed loans? So understanding the integration architecture is so important. And again, think of this. We talked about how it's no longer a race between a company's IT system and another company's IT system. It is between the IT system of the ecosystem versus the IT system of another ecosystem. So people who are familiar with the Japanese keiretsus, you will understand the power of the web determines how strong and how successful you are. And you will see some of those playing out here. So I think all of us have been hearing a lot of IoT. And imagine when services, we also saw that how with the new entrants and new products and new services with their value chain disruptions, how every industry is looking at offering new products and new services that it never ever thought that it would do. So what is the role of a business analyst? When you take requirements, will you go and ask for requirements and tell me what to do and write it down and then get? Or will you propose? Will you suggest? Will you bring new things that has happened? Will you be able to bring information from what's happening in connectivity, what is happening in sensor technology, what is happening in any other field of analytics, what is happening in cognitive computing, and what is happening? All these things are happening, and how can that be brought to bear? In your discussions, when you're having these discussions with your clients, when new products are being launched, what products to launch? When they're thinking of speed to market, what is the right speed? And to whom, to which customer? So when IoT opens up new ways, So as a business analyst, what would you think when you ask for requirements? What would you suggest? What would you pre-assemble and bring to the table? And so when new products and new are being discussed, and we are going to move into an outcome economy, will we begin, as IT companies begin to say, I am going to be your business partner to release products. Today it takes 8 months for you to release your products into the market. I will work with you to release products in 6 months or 4 months. We will bring new variations of the product out in the market in 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks we will bring. Right? Can we bring those business models to bear? And if we don't, someone else will. So look at the unbundling of the bank. We talked about this example on if we don't understand, even being in banking, we don't understand the unbundling that is happening in the bank and what new services are on offer, you just cannot be a good business analyst. Right? So these are things as business analysts for us to think. And so to deliver these sort of applications at speed, no one is going to wait, I think, in the future world about releases. Once in 6 months, I would give you a release. I'll give you 2 patches in a quarter. It's gone. It's all about continuous integration, continuous delivery, they want patch. I find a bug, I want a patch. I have a problem, I need a solution. So the speed at which solutions will have to be driven will accelerate even more. And we see it in digital projects. Clients literally are asking for the moon because their clients are asking them for the moon. Very easy to demonize a client, but the truth is their clients are asking for the moon. That's because they are driven by the end customer whose expectations are very different at price points never imagined. And so we need to understand DevOps, where development and operations and continuous integration happens on a regular time. And so, what is the implication on a business analyst? Correct? Can you start thinking of what does it mean when you develop applications on a cloud-first, mobile-first world? Because imagine your users of your applications are no longer going to be inside your 4 walls. They'll be out there. There'll be more people using your systems outside your company than maybe 10 times more or 100 times more. So when you think mobile first, cloud first, interconnected systems and ecosystem, as a business analyst, your requirements definition will be a different order. So development methodologies will change. And so what will be the role of a business analyst during requirement management? Will it be tell me your requirements? I will document it. I'll write it down. The guy who was given requirements will not remember. He won't read this 40-page document. Give me a sign-off. Then I go build it. Clients cannot even imagine upfront. And so prototyping, screens, UI, design, everything is done. They have to see that happening. Give me a working prototype. I don't want just a static one. Give me a working prototype. I want to see that working. I want to touch and feel. I want to put some logic behind it. I want to put some pricing rules around it and see that. That's what business analysts are expected to do. And the last 2 projects that I'm working on, it's all about creating working prototypes, and the prototype engine is supposed to be almost half the project. Shiladitya here is working with me on that. So as a business analyst, can you imagine requirements and design will merge? And so what skills are needed of a business analyst? Finally, so it's very important, and I think in the ecosystem we have tool manufacturers and etc. What is the integrated development environment the developers have? What is that equivalent for business analyst? It cannot be MS Word and Excel and skills and painting. There has to be something else because it's impossible. They must be able to generate the best of knowledge. They have to be able to pull the best of requirements. You must be able to pull the best of things. They must have suggestion engines as they write requirements. They must be able to pull, hey, this is already there in some other place. It's already available in some other place. How much would you know? So we need an integrated development environment for business analysts, which will check even as you're writing requirements or even as you're developing artifacts, if you're developing code or prototypes, it suggests and gives you tools by which you can generate that and take to business quick and fast. Don't we? Intelligence are needed. If requirements you run through, even as you write requirements, as you generate requirements per document, it must tell you, these things are not catered for. You have plugged in some amount of your ecosystem. These ecosystem requirements are not captured. These non-functionals are not there. This doesn't impact. This needs, real-time integration, but you have not even catered for it. If it is real-time, then what happens to this particular process? We don't think. But imagine in the large world of ecosystem, you have to think of everything. So what are the tools that are needed? What cognitive tools are needed, which is self-learning, because you cannot set something and then generate a tool. The tool needs to learn on its own because the business is changing, the requirements are changing. Business analysts can't define what they need out of the tool. So the tools need cognitive capabilities of self-learn, self-govern abilities. So for tool manufacturers, how can you build self-learning tools and that can grow and learn with every new adaptation or every new project? Finally, so what does it mean to business analysts to learn, right? As business analysts, we need to learn every day, every step, every minute, every second, every interaction if we want to really be relevant. And for people and HR and the learning and management companies, right, how do you get so much of knowledge and information prepackaged and available? Right? To business analysts. How can, if I have to educate a set of business analysts in this room, how can I bring multi-industry view and some packets of these things that are happening in the industry and pick and choose? And how can I get those in small modules and in ways, the training materials that can be consumed? And imagine the Gen Y world. They're not going to sit in a classroom. They're not going to invest 2 months to get some benefit at the end of 4th year. No, they want it now. Instant economy. So what should learning be done in this digital world? How can our workforce be extremely good? And as business analysts, what do we need? How can we become extremely good at things every minute, every second, every interaction? And what should the IIBA do, or what should the learning department do? What should the capability teams that design these requirements, what should certification look like? And so, brings us to the fact that the role of mentoring becomes extremely important. I believe that we need to develop a set of commando BAs. We don't have them now. In this new world, we need to have a set of commando BAs, mentor them with missionary zeal, build those role models, empower them, help them profligate, and that's how you build the new set of BAs for the new world. And then help them and mentor and coach them along the way. Mentoring and coaching will become the way, because there are no books written, there are no techniques written. Babok will become outdated by the time it's released. So we have to find new ways of getting Babok up to date. So mentoring, just think as leaders of business analysts teams, how important mentoring is for this. So finally, this is my message to the leaders of the ecosystem. I think this ecosystem pretty much represents the ecosystem of a business analyst world. So my question to this leadership is, if you truly want to be successful in this world, the business analyst can be a real strategic weapon. Because the business analyst can think technology, can work business, can understand the ecosystem, and can trade and can rally around new ideas, and can be the change agent as we go along. But to this group and to this leadership that is here, across IT companies, across industries, across academia, you really need to think of it as a strategic asset. There are very few body or business, these experts who can make a difference in this changing world in a substantial way. And my vision for business analysis is business analysis will be right at the middle, at the center of everything that's going on. A business analyst can be a big value generator. A business analyst can be an advisor, and truly become an ability to bring things that are happening around way. And you can be a good advisor only if you are very good at it. You establish a track record. You bring the knowledge to the table. You bring wisdom to the table. You bring practicality to the table. And you can be a facilitator. And as I said, if business analysts understand the ecosystem of the firm the industry you're working on of your firm, you understand the ecosystem and the technology ecosystem, and also your business partners, you are empowered in a huge way to facilitate the right conversations. And facilitating the right conversations at the right time can be something that an orchestration role. So as business analysts, there is a huge opportunity ahead of us, both in terms of application services in the world that we work in IT, and more in terms of transforming the business of our own firms as well as our clients to deliver the business outcomes that we are out here to achieve. Thank you. I can take some questions.
Hi, Ramesh. Vibhas this side from Ford Motors Company.
Hi.
First,
Vibhas.
I really want to thank you for a very intense and very nice session. Thanks a lot for that. You talked about the industry being driven by the customers. And while working for Ford, I realized that even being a company for a century, Ford is so keen to listen to their customers. For a long time, we have that myth that Ford card is affordable, but not its service. But now we are listening to the customers, and a great shift has been going. So we don't want them to pay according to the service, but we want to design a service in such a way they can afford it. Correct. So we are going with the happy pockets for that. So certainly that affirms what you mentioned. I have a quick question regarding the last thing that you mentioned about empowering the BAs, and I really love the term commando BAs. That's something fantastic. So rather than just having a postman's role, getting the requirements for a customer and taking it to the technology side, we are moving to the partnering with the customer so that we can understand them. The biggest hurdle is not the strategy or a policy, but probably the biggest hurdle is the mindset inside a business analyst. I would like to know from you, how can we change that mindset in a business analyst to be a partner of them and not just a vendor or just a listening thing?
Yeah, fantastic question.
Thank you.
And thanks for asking the question. If you had asked me anything about Ford, I would have turned to Subbu. Okay. So I was really waiting to deflect the question. But I'll still get Subbu to talk about it. But I think you've raised a very important point. And that's the genesis of this keynote speech from my side, is as business analysts, we really need to think different. We really need to act different. We really need to assemble information. And unless you see that things are happening, it's difficult to make the connections. But I think it is an individual journey to start with. So I would say the fact that you took the time early in the morning, at 9 o'clock, to come and attend this session and possibly looking for some value is a great first start. And if you believe that these things are happening in front of you, I think it's time for us to start getting connected. I would do 2 or 3 things, a little bit more specific on the ground. First, I would, as a business analyst, continuously look at broadening by area of knowledge beyond auto. I would seriously look at software, because auto as a platform. Seriously look at intelligence. Seriously look at that chart where you have so many new players. And why are those new players being successful? When Ford's such a wonderful company, when the Chryslers, Daimlers, BMWs are there, how come these small chutkas are able to make such an impact in the market? Because they could just get liquidated, right? They need money to sustain, but they are getting sustained. So they're bringing something new, something different. What is it that they are bringing? And if you're able to distill the essence of that and then pick and choose which ones to track. I'm glad to be in a company like Accenture where we have a concept of open innovation. And we look at a lot of these new startups in different industries. We keep a track of them, we nurture them, we bring them to customers, we work with them. They are also acquisition targets for us in the digital world. So you may want to have a portfolio of startups that you want to keep an eye on. I would strongly encourage BAs to be part of some innovation forum or the other for looking at things which is outside your industry that you can bring in. There are plenty. Bangalore is the hotbed of VC and innovation activity. Just install yourself somewhere. And I would say, that's my pitch to Stephen and the IIBA team. What can we do as IIBA, as an organization, to provide that entrepreneurial culture and that ability for our BAs to bring those things together? Those are things I can think of. Think broad. You will find the connections. Does that make sense?
Sure. Thank you.
Hi. Good morning. My name is Rubu Kumar. I'm from Accenture itself.
Hi.
Actually, first of all, thanks for showing us the exciting times ahead in terms of the future. While historically as a BA, we heard that a business analyst, basically they have to be very strong in their domain, and if you are in auto or a banking, you have to be a good domain knowledge behind you. While seeing this presentation and hearing about the other sessions as well, I think the boundaries are disappearing very fast between the industries. So my quick question to you is, do you feel in coming times the domain knowledge, basically a business analyst with a particular domain knowledge is not needed? A generalist BA is more suited to the projects or to the coming times, basically, instead of a very strong specific domain knowledge, particularly in let's say banking or auto. Or
No, good question. I think it's a very good question, but it's a wrong medicine to the wrong problem. So personally, it's the opposite direction that I've taken when we set up the industry capability in Accenture and what we did for business analysts. We clearly said, knowing your industry very well, having business analysis skills, and having technology, all these three is needed for you to be successful in your role. Even if you don't have any one of them, I can build business analysis skills with some training. But it takes me a long time to build industry skills in you. It takes longer to build technology skills. So I need at least two of the three before we could get any business analyst on board. But the point is, that's not enough. The point is, that's not enough. Knowing just your industry is not enough. You will be successful in an industry earlier if you knew your industry very well. Today, it's not enough if you know your industry. You need to know your industry and your industry's ecosystem. So far from the problem going away, the problem has become more complex. So I would say the only way you can apply anything for you to recognize that something is good for my industry, I need to know this industry. It's good and bad. The positives and the negatives. What to keep, what to throw away. And what pieces from outside can be built. So I would say you absolutely need to know, but don't be rigidly involved in what was been 20 years dogma of the industry. Question. And when you question, you will find new solutions. That's my point of view.
Hi, Ramesh.
If you don't mind, I want Subbu to sort of respond to this because this is something that I and Subbu have been wrestling with. Subbu is from the automotive industry.
So again, I thought this is a very good question, more relevant to most of the BA population here. So if you look at the BAs, the domain is essential. The knowledge of industry is absolutely essential. But we need to look at what else we can bring value. The first question when Ramesh presented goes back to the Ford gentleman asked a question, who is your customer? If you are IT company, you are a business analyst working for Ford, my customer is not Ford. My customer is the customer that Ford serves. So when you start looking at that domain, who is Ford's customer, who is Ford's supplier that we are serving through applications, what else in the external world, the technology available, that we can bring in, add value in our requirements, is very, very important for a business analyst. A simple ERP, if I have to take, a sales order processing. We know that most of you worked in ERP for many, many years. It will be quotation, then you generate a purchase order, the requisition, then you invoice and bill the customer. It has been there many years, 20 years, 30 years. That is an SAP standard process. Look at today the same sales order process. How many of us same sales order process we follow? The same sales order process today is, we need to look at how the mobile is getting the quotation, what kind of a channel that we can look at the order coming in, EDI. It could be an EDI generating an order. It could be an Adobe Forms generating an order today, purchase order. It could be the moment you book an order, you can trigger in an analytics engine in the back of the big data, identify what kind of a margin I'm going to generate out of the sales order. It's unbundled. Again, coming back to the auto industry, the things that we see that in a box, it's unbundled to many different ways. As a business analyst, if you understand what is changing in the world, with the same domain knowledge that we had in the past, it will add tremendous value to our customer. Otherwise, Ramesh picked up in a couple of 10 questions that we probably will build an application or a system for our customer, which will become obsolete in 4 to 6 months of time because of the technology disruption that is happening. Thank you.
Very good perspective. Thanks, Subbu.
Ramesh, good morning. This is Sundar Subramaniam here from Mastech.
Hi, Sundar.
Hi. First of all, thank you very much. That was a mind-blowing session. I thought, in my personal opinion, it was one of the best sessions of the conference out here. So, thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think you made in your closing comments, you made a fantastic point there. Of course, I agree with my colleague here who said the Commando BAs was a great terminology, and maybe, that is of the future. BAs are a strategic asset. BAs can understand technology, business, understand ecosystem of industry firm, business partners, and can trade ideas to become a change agent. So I think that's a very key statement you made. Now, in my head, I'm imagining another parallel conference happening for either a technical architect or a solution architects, wherein a Ramesh from another industry or, equally likely personnel is addressing an audience and saying, hey, technical architects, you understand the technology, you understand the ecosystem, and now you need to, just understand a little more of business. So what I'm just my question here is, it seems like an amalgamation of so many different roles that existed in the IT industry. Today, from all of this discussions, it seems to be coming together. So who's going to have the benefit over another, or are the roles converging, and is a BA going to be equal to TA, equal to a solution architect? How do you foresee the future?
Fantastic, fabulous question.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking this question.
Wish I could get an iPod for that.
I think you should get one.
Nice mode.
But I think the question is, what is the traditional BA versus a traditional technical architect versus a traditional project manager doing? And what is the role out there? So it's very clear that it's converging. So my advice is, can the business analyst reach there first? If the business analyst reaches there first, whoever is able to give that service at that given point in time are the ones who are going to be called into the room for discussion. If you don't, and you show up and are not able to add conversation, of course a technical architect who knows a little bit of business will be brought in. So it's not about a person, it is about the role that is needed for the future. If we are able to see through what is needed in that future, and we equip our business analysts to get there, we are much more better organized, because today it's the business that is driving. It's the business that's driving at the speed, and business itself is innovating. So if business guys can innovate faster and get to know and bring technology architects and build a web. So even again, I cannot deliver this presentation, what I've did on my own. I had to get Subbu, I had to get Rajiv, I had to get Ajay from banking industry, I had to get my strategy guy to think about things and coherently bring it together for me to deliver this 1 hour session. So the problem is not about one silo, it's about how beautifully can we combine different capabilities. And if you can lead as a business analyst those discussions and bring glory to you. If someone else is able to do it, let's take the other contrary view. If business analysts refuse to do that and evolve there will be application maintenance jobs and mainframe and other things that will be there for some time. You will be relegated to that. And over a period of time, business analysis will become a dying trade. You have an opportunity as well as a cliff. You fly off or you fall off. That is how I would look at it.
Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you.
Hi Ramesh, this is
Thank
Abhishek
you,
here.
Baikuntha from Accenture. This is regarding one question. You told about many things in the B aspect, the consumer perspective aspect, and also industry changes, how the business transformation is happening across all the industries. So if you look at, from your slides perspective, it is showing like reinvent yourself. Even business analysts also, they need to reinvent themselves to cope up in the changing industries, changing platform. But as far as your message concerned to the BA teams, like BA can be a facilitator, can be an advisor, and can be a change facilitator also. So in that context, the customers are looking at the liquid applications, intelligent applications, and connected applications. So it is all about collaboration, all about intelligent knowledge to be applied in the domain. So in that aspect, cost is coming into one picture from the boardroom perspective, and from the delivery perspective, it should be intelligent. So a lot of collaboration, lot of brainstorming sessions to be there to cope up all these, connect all those things. So how does that, ecosystem, business ecosystem supports? Like I'll be telling you one example, like you were looking at the timelines. Like you correctly told also, earlier ERP system were taking 12 months or, in the digital platform in the Accenture, the software delivery life cycle is reduced very dramatically. So how the BA people will be, changing that movement, and they will be delivering in the smart way, and also business systems should support that. Like one solution maybe you suggested for the IIBA or the tool support team, those are developing new tools for the business analysts, like they can come up with some design things or some prototypes. So that is a one way forward to support that initiative. But how business ecosystem is supporting the BA's initiative to provide an intelligent solution, to become a facilitator, to become a change agent, to become an advisor.
Absolutely, another great question, and you guys are really testing me because I brought some new things. But I think simply put, when I sort of take everything out and look at it, right, you cannot fight this on your own as a BA. And that's where I think Ashish and IABA and our friends, the point is, how can we build an ecosystem that will fight that ecosystem? How can we create an ecosystem for BAs that will rise up to that challenge? So that's why I put a pointed question to the leadership of the ecosystem. If every leadership of the ecosystem begin to start playing that role, that'll be great. Ashish, you want to talk about your thoughts on IABA and what your ecosystem you want to do? There are big plans that he has, but we need people like you to contribute.
So to me, I think there is no single magic wand. There's no direct answer to your question, believe me. I think what Ramesh is saying, the reason we are consistently talking about ecosystem and the importance of ecosystem for this transformation, for your benefit, it is just one single aspect that every top leader need to step up to contribute to the ecosystem. If that doesn't happen, then I as Ashish or Ramesh as individual and all of us playing individually will never work. I think in our childhood days, we used to hear that story, right? And if you tie some of the sticks together and try to break it, it won't break. I think that's the unity that we need here for this whole platform to be very, very impactful. Clearly, I think I'm sure you heard it from Ramesh, the opportunity is humongous for all of us, given the fact that we serve our global customers. And the first one to get into the room, boardroom or any of the conference room for the discussion is business analyst, right? So I think the opportunity is without any doubt, but it's a matter of bringing all the stakeholders together to really create that ecosystem. And once that voice starts, bubbling up, you would you will automatically see boardroom accepting that point of view, right? In different rooms. I hope I am able to answer that.
So for your question about Accenture, you should talk to Ajay and Subbu, who's here. They are thinking about the future of industry programs, industry BAs. Some of these concepts are getting into it. You must sort of put your hand to that ecosystem. And also to Ashish. And I think to this team, please contribute. Come up and see how you can help generate this ecosystem that is going to help us get to the center of where we want to get to.
Yeah.
Okay, with that.
Last question. Just last question,
one more
guys. We have one more. So Abhishek, this is the last question.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ashish. Hi, Ramesh. I'm Abhishek from Entity Data.
Hi, Abhishek.
We heard so much being spoken about market volatility. And if you look at it, essentially what's happening is there are small organizations today trying to get that stability well within so much of volatility. When I say that, what I mean to say essentially is coming up with some fantastic products, right? And I have a statement for that where I look at productization followed by penetization for a simple fact that today what's happening is we are looking at people fighting out at penny level, cent level, coming up with SaaS products, right? Now for us, from a services company standpoint, now today we have had a market out there for us. In the future, be it 5 or 6 years down the lane now, when the entire market is looking at from a productization standpoint, what does it mean for us as a service company? Are we going to change a market, or are we going to look at actually thinking on the product line itself? So what are we doing? How do we move forward?
Yeah, so I don't claim to be an expert at that level, but at the risk of sounding a little naive, let me profess a point of view to you. So I think, as IT companies, as IT services companies, we have, dealt with this issue of, taking on products, not taking on products for some time. But I think it doesn't matter. You have to look at what the customer finally is going to ask you of. Can you deliver that service, build a custom application in 4 weeks or 6 weeks? Or you build an ecosystem of people and startups and whom you can bring to bear and orchestrate and stitch something together for your client to give him what he wants. Can you get the energy of startups and the energy of entrepreneurs and the ability to think and bring some great products? Look at what WhatsApp has done to us, right? So can you bring those to bear for our clients, for our services? We really don't need to own. Today, this is not the age of owning. And if you've heard all these things, even if you want to acquire all those products, by the time you acquire, the customer would have moved and would have been obsolete by the time you ink the deal. So the question is, can you have an ecosystem? Can you nurture the ecosystem? Can you bring it to bear? Can you go to market quickly? That's how I would think. So I would build an ecosystem of alliance partners, startups, and I think I like the concept of open innovation idea of Accenture, which is keeping a track. And I'm sure other companies are doing something similar. You acquire some places, but the main point is, today we are telling nobody has to own an asset to use it. So how do you build ecosystems to deliver? Did I answer your question?
Yes, definitely. I was just thinking, however, see, my simple example was considering Workday as an example, right? I mean, there are scenarios wherein we look at today, let's say, look at PeopleSoft as a service provider for HR management solution. But today we've got someone called Workday. Initially, a new startup can actually kick off from day one, right? I mean, this is the power that those organizations are giving versus we as service organizations, how we're looking at. So
yeah.
that's still fine. I think.
Sure, we can take up this question, offline, etc. But you're on the right track to start thinking about this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ramesh. Thank you very much, guys. One quick time check. We are 25 minutes delayed, so please keep that in mind when the other sessions are now going on. There'll be some slippage. We need to figure out how to cover that up. So thank you very much. I'm sure you enjoyed the session.
A big round of applause for Ramesh. Definitely a thought-provoking and insightful session.